really, it's only good for hero nukes, and in 2s, when they have 2 ranged heroes, hero nukes really aren't going to do much, especially because you're not going to be able to reach them, and all you're going to be able to do is nuke them, which is pretty pointless. And this is pretty funny because what they're going to do is they're going to do a wisp harass, and they're basically going to force them to deado a bunch of wisps with entangle. And this basically doesn't work in solo because a lot of people will go Demon Hunter. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is this sort of sucks against the Demon Hunter because you only get like 1 or 2 entangles as opposed to 4. And there is a Priestess of the Moon harass going on at Axelab's base, but the one thing you can do is just kind of run your wisps to your allies' base or cycle them through your gold mine, which is what he's doing, and he's doing a pretty good job at it. And the other fantastic thing is that the Undead's going to have a late hero, and if they're a solo player, they're obviously going to creep first, so they're not going to come to save their allies' Moonwall, which is dying. Unfortunately, they don't get the kill, and they're sort of forced to run away. But one smart thing that they do is they decide to go with Aura first, as opposed to the arrow. And the reason that you do this is for a couple reasons. One, you don't waste as much moon juice when you go to heal. 2, it also allows your Huntress to have damage and your ally to have damage, and once a Huntress and your ally's hero have added damage as well, basically you're doing more damage than their searing arrow will. And he's doing a smart maneuver with his Priest of the Moon, which is he's taking, I guess, the shorter route and picking up dust, which is smart. And basically he's going to end up doing a lot more damage to that Priest of the Moon than that Priestess did to him. And the Undead player shows up, and he doesn't run fast enough, so that Huntress is going to die. Which is too bad, but not too big of a loss. And you'll notice that Strifecrow's Huntress are already waiting there, and here comes the Keeper of the Grove. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to creepjack. And this is going to work out for them just because there aren't enough fiends to be able to counter you. Plus they haven't even killed the Ogre Magi yet, so they're not going to win anything. One thing to note is that Keeper of the Grove basically rapes fiends. I mean, they already have a Huntress kill. 1 fiend down. And you notice they didn't get the last hit on it, and they let the Entangle actually do what it does. And DK's in a bad spot, and Surround. That sucks. So, basically, they've already forced a TP. They're already in a good position. And plus, guess what they're going to get? They're going to get the Ogre Magi's Ward. So, smart play. And you'll notice the Ancient of War from Axelab in the middle of the map is already walking towards the creeps, which means he's going to Expo there. And the reason that you bring your Ancient of War over is because it actually provides a sort of a base defense, so that they can't just run up and kill it with a bunch of ghouls or Huntress or whatever. It becomes a little more difficult with the Ancient of War in the way. Plus, if you have it uprooted right next to your tree, you're going to absorb some of the bouncing glaive damage. One thing that you shouldn't do, which Axelab is doing right now, is creep with the Searing Arrow on. You want to turn that off. It does 10 extra damage, and against creeps, that's pretty pointless. Don't get the last kill with the Ancient of War, or the last hit. I don't think you really watched it too much. But, that's one pretty important thing to keep in mind. Notice how Strifecrow has the Scout Wisp right at the Goblin Merchant, which is pretty smart. And one of his Wisps dies, so they figure, oh hey, there's the Undead away from his base. Let's go jack him. So, here's what they do. They have one of the elves go to the bottom and kind of prevent him from escaping, and then they have the top elf come with Entangle. And really nice surround. He's going to be forced to burn his second TP, which is already 750 gold. Or not 750, just 700. So, now what they're going to do is they're going to head over to the elf space. They should be creeping that out, but obviously there's not going to be willing to lose. But the one thing that you do is you either force the undead player to again with a weak hero, or you force him to roll with a weak hero and have him behind your Huntress. Very good, because ignore the straight for the fiends. So in their base, on a bunch of buildings, and a Huntress gonna die for say. Oh, never mind, it lives. And once again, forced to TP. And they get a Moonwell kill. And they're running away, because they've just forced 3 TPs. Really the sacrificial. He's expecting them to come back, but they won't. And what they're doing is they're actually trying to drag them more out of their base so that the Ancient Protectors won't protect the Fiends. And notice how Strifecrow's hanging at the middle. He's waiting for the Undead to make his move. And wait for it. Because obviously the Undead is going to go, hey, I should probably help my Elf ally, who is probably losing. Unfortunately, creeps get involved. And here come the... So if you can get this kind of positioning on a bunch of Fiends, they're basically done, because your bouncing glaives are going to just wreck face. And notice how the Huntress are trying to focus on the Huntress. And already like 3 Fiends gone. Plus he has Entangle, so he's going to get another Fiend kill. And... oh look, a fairly weakened Huntress being hit by Nova. That's just dumb. I don't know why he went Lich second. It makes no sense to me. This is why I think that the KOD team is actually a fairly strong team, is because they actually think when they're in their games. They don't just go, oh hey, let's do the same thing every time. Let's actually adapt it and change a couple things here and there. I mean, sure, they mass Huntress as an opening basically every game, but it's not like they just mass Huntress and do the same thing. They obviously adapt somewhat. I mean, they've both tacked. Well, one of them's almost done tacking. Axlab is almost done tacking. But they're going to manage to get some tier 2 buildings, stuff like that. And they already have an Expo, so far they're playing it pretty smart. I already have one of the wards. They also know where the Undead player is. He's at the Elf player's base, which is pretty obvious, just because he's going to be sitting there and waiting to not get jacked. And first thing that Axlab does is picks up a healing scroll from the shop. And guess what that means? Another 250 HP for a load of Huntress. Basically, that's a huge advantage for you. Strifecrow, I believe, just crept to level 4. That's why he hit the green camp. And Axlab is doing a little 1v2 action, which I wouldn't say is pretty smart, but at least he's keeping his Huntress from getting nuked and stuff. And Strifecrow is already starting the creep on the shop, which is a smart time to do it because Axelev's trying to keep the attention of the W&V team from going over to the shop. You'll notice he doesn't go with the Thorns or a second, and the reason this is because there's a bunch of Huntress, no footies, and Fiends. I mean, obviously, True Shot Aura is going to do nothing. Not True Shot. Thorns Aura is going to do nothing, so you might as well go with the Treants. Plus, he has a pretty good drop, the Pendant of Energy, so that's pretty good. I would have given the Blades of Attack to the Priest of the Moon, though. But that's just me. So, he did pick up the healing and protection scrolls from the shop. Unfortunately, the elf player gets one, but he's in a pretty bad spot. So he's going to be forced to portal out. And he probably could have gotten the intact.